So now we are live. Welcome to the World Alliance of Qara'im weekly Torah study. Today we'll be reading through Parashath WayYetzei. That'll be Genesis chapter 28, starting at verse 10. We'll read through chapter 32, verse 3, if we're lucky. And I'll wait a little while for people to show up. My co-host Melech Ben Yaakov will be here sometime or another. I don't know exactly when.
Okay.
But we were speaking before the broadcast began about the differences between Hebrew, Arabic, and Aramaic, and we were talking about the word mazel when we get to, for instance, mazel tov. The word mazel comes from the root mazal, and basically it means a station. And in Arabic, it's manzil, and that's used for the stations of the constellations. And so earlier they thought that the certain constellations had to do with the aspects of a person's life, whether it's either a good sign or a bad sign. And so that's where you get the word Mazel Tov, which means a good station or a good sign. And so it comes down to us in English as good luck.
Okay, I have just looked it up in at Wikipedia, and you won't believe it. It is also used in Bavaria as a Bavarian Austrian dialect, and the meaning is Mazal Glück haben.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, Yiddish is really close to what's called Bayerish. And in Bayerish, you have certain words like you have like a saying, for instance, in Bayerish, Hals und Beinbruch.
Hals und Beinbruch, yes.
Yeah, that comes from the Hebrew Hatzlacha uvracha, which means success and blessing. But the Germans, as they were listening to the Yiddish speakers speaking that, they didn't understand Hatzlacha uvracha, and so they understood Hals und Beinbruch, which means basically break your neck and leg.
Of course, but you wish him the opposite of that. What you're saying.
Well, that's what they say, but that's not
ironic statement,
right? But that's because that's the only way they could understand it. They're like, why do these Jews keep saying to break each other's neck and leg? Oh, it must mean something different. But that's not. That's because they misunderstood what they were hearing, and that's how you get in German today, Hals und Beinbruch. And so that's pretty funny. But the word, like I was saying, mazel in Hebrew, you have what's called a dagesh. This is the little dot in the Zion. So it's mazel because the noon, the n, the initial n from the root nazal, is assimilated into the Zion, and so you have mazel. And that's why in Arabic, and it's called manzil. You have the noon there. And you have it in Arabic also in the fourth stem, anzala. And you see it in the Torah often when it talks about water flowing from above to below.
Yes.
And also rain. And that's where you get the idea for revelation. Like in the Quran it says, "Inna anzalnahu." We sent it down. We revealed it. We sent it down, and that's the same. That's the same word. Okay, so we're coming up on 5 minutes into the program. I guess I will go ahead and begin. And I gotta get to it. So this is Parashath WayYetzei. That's going to be Genesis chapter 28, and we're going to start at verse 10. وييtzei Yaakov מבאר shava וילך harana. And so Jacob left out from Beersheba, and he went toward Haran. Now Haran is what was called when we read the story of Abraham's servant who went to look for a wife for Yitzhak, for Isaac. It said he went to the city of Nahor, Ur Nahor, and that's Haran. It's the same place. ويفقع بمقام ويالن שם كيבה השמש ויקח מעבדי המקום וישם מרע שופר וישכב במקום ההוא. And this is interesting phrase, says, and he met in the place. What he actually met in the place, we don't know, but it's usually translated as he came upon a certain place, I think is how they have it in most English translations. But the word paga means to meet. He slept there because the sun was setting, and literally it says ki ba hashemesh, because the sun was going or entering. The word ba can mean either going or it can mean entering. You enter a place with the same word. And so he took of the stones of the place and he set it under his head, and he slept in that place, which is also kind of strange that he took a stone and used it to lay his head upon. Be kind of hard. ويهلم وهنا سلام مُצב أرצה וראשו מגיע השמיימה והנה מלאכי אלוהים עולים ויורדים בו. And he dreamed, and he beheld a ladder, a sulam. It was set up. This is mutzav, which basically means it was erected, and it says arza, which means toward the earth, and it was coming from the heavens toward the earth. That's how they're picturing it. And its head was reaching into the heavens. And he beheld the angels or the messengers of God going up and coming down upon it. And وهنا أدوناي نتصاب على ويمار أني أدوناي إلهي أبراهام أبيך ואלוהי יצחק הארץ אשר אתה שוכב עליה לך אתננה ולזרעך. And behold, Adonai was also set upon it, upon this ladder. Or it says, could even mean he was stationed over it, over the ladder itself. And he says, I am Adonai, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land which you are sleeping upon, to you I will give it, and also to your seed. وحيا زرعך كعفار הארץ ופרצת ים וקדמה וצפונה ונגבה ונפרחו בך כל משפחות האדמה ובזרעך. and your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall spread out towards the west, towards the east, towards the north, and towards the south. And in you and also your seed shall all the families of the land be blessed.
Mm-hmm. May I ask a question, Yaakov?
You can ask anytime.
Okay. This passage where he stops because of the sun setting and has the dream with the ladder to the heaven. It is called the ladder of Jacob, or in Christian, Jacob's Leiter or Jacob ladder. Or am I wrong?
Yeah, Jacob's ladder.
Okay.
That's how you say it. You say Jacob's ladder in English.
Jacob ladder. Okay. It's something similar to a gateway to heaven, or is it wrong to describe it as a gateway?
Well, we have to first understand that this was a dream.
Okay.
He didn't actually see anything. He was sleeping and he had a dream, and in the dream he saw this. So it wasn't that there was something literally there outside of his dream. And when he wakes up, we'll see in just a few more verses, he makes a statement, and he basically says that this is the gate of the heavens, and the place that he's at should be considered the house of God. But an interesting comment I would like to make on what I just read. It's interesting that God tells Yaakov, "I'm going to give to you and also to your seed," talking about his descendants, the land where he's sleeping. Okay?
Yes.
But then he goes on to say that you will spread out, ufarasta, which means you'll basically break out from this land. And it says first towards the west, Yamma, which is towards the sea, which is the Mediterranean Sea from where he's at. So the first direction will be towards the west, then towards the east, and then towards the north, and then finally towards the south. And it's just interesting how the directions are. While normally when you read the different directions, it normally starts with the east first, east, west, north, and south. But here it starts with the west.
Well, the evening is the west, right?
Mm-hmm.
Evening.
Maghreb, yeah, that's west.
I only have the German translation, so I don't want to read it now. But it's verse 14.
And what does it say there in German?
Your seed shall be like the ashes of the earth. It's my own translation now, so sorry, and you should spread out towards the evening. So this is the west, you mean?
Yeah, the west. Yamma. Literally in Hebrew it says Yamma. Yam means sea. Yamma means towards the sea. And they use Yamma as a direction of the west because it's talking about the Mediterranean Sea, which is to the west of Israel.
Okay. Then to the east.
Mm-hmm. And then to the north.
Hold on. To the east, to the north, and then to the south.
Yep.
Okay.
So verse 15. והנה אנוכי עמך ושמרתיך בכל אשר תלך והשיבתיך אל האדמה הזאת כי לא אעזבך עד אשר אם עשיתי את אשר דיברתי לך. And behold, I am with you, and I will protect you. I will guard you in all or in everywhere that you go, and I will bring you back to this land because I will not forsake you until I have done that which I've spoken to you. Now, the question is, what was it he told him he'd do? That's kind of missing here. All it says before this is that he's going to give him the land and also his children and bless the people. Verse 16. ويقات يعقوب משנתו ויאמר אכן יש אדוני במקום הזה ואנוכי לא ידעתי. And so Yaakov woke up from his sleep and he says, surely Adonai is in this place, and I didn't know it. וירא ויאמר נא נורא המקום הזה אין זה כי אם בית אלוהים וזה שער השמיים. And he feared, and he says, how fearful is this place? It is nothing except the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven, the gate of the heavens. And like I said, this is also a dream. So he woke up from his dream. So this lets you know that it wasn't actually anything literal that he saw with his own eyes. He saw this in his dream. 18. וישכם יעקב בבוקר ויקח את האבן אשר שם מרעפיו וישים אותה מצבה ויסוך שמן על ראשה. So Yaakov got up in the morning and he took the stone that he had set for his head and he set it as a matzeva. A matzeva is a standing stone. We read about that later in the Torah, that when the Israelites crossed the Jordan to go into the land for the first time, they were to take stones and make a matzeva. And he poured oil upon the top of. Now later you'll see that the same stone were when God appears to him again in a dream at the end of his service by his uncle, which is where he's on his way to now. He says, "Go back to this place," and that's where he'll be leaving from Aram or Haran, going back to. Verse 19. ויקרא את שם המקום ההוא בית אל. בית אל. ואולם לוז שם העיר לראשונה. And he called the name of that place Bethel. Okay? Which means the house of God.
House of God, yeah.
And however, the first name of the place was called Luz. Now, we read in the story of Abraham in Lech Lecha, in chapter 12, it says that he went to Bethel, and that Bethel was on one side, Ai was on the other, and he built an altar between these two. So this is one of the places where we have place names that were actually not the name of the place at the time. For instance, here, Yaakov called this place Bethel, which is why it's called Bethel. But at the time, it was called Luz. And for instance, Abraham went to a place called Hebron. But at the time that Avram went there, it wasn't called Hebron. It was called Kiryat Arba. And so you see this often, that you have place names used that weren't the name of the places at the time that the events were taking place. And we have to understand that this was written by Moses, and it was at the time of Moses. And so you have a lot of the names supplied from Moses to the people who would understand those place names by those names as they were at his time. And so that's how you get the different place names. So verse 20, ويدار يعقوب النادر لمور إم يهي إلهيم عمدي وشمرني بدارك هذي أشر أنوخي خطيخ ومنثان لي لحم للخول وفاغد للبوش. And so this is the beginning part of an oath. And it says, and so Yaakov swore an oath, saying, if God will be with me and will protect me in this way that I'm going, and give to me food to eat and clothes to wear. שבתי ושלום אל בית אבי, והיה אדוני לי לאלוהים. And he returned me safely to the house of my father, then he shall be Adonai for me. Then Adonai shall be for me as God. وَهَيَا Adonai li le'elohim. And then Adonai shall be for me as God. Verse 22, وَهَאَبٍ هَزَوْف أَشَرْ سَمْتِي مَتْسَيْبَا يِهِي بيت إلهي وَخُلْ أَشَرْ تِتْنْلِي عَسِرٍ لَخ. And this stone, which I have set as a matzeva, or a standing stone, shall be the house of God, and all that you shall give me, I shall make a tithe. I shall give a tithe to you. Give me just a minute, but he's writing it. So now we are in chapter 29, the first verse. وَيَسَيْ يَعْقُوب رَغْلَاف وَيَيْلِخْ خَلَصَ بَنِي قَادٍ. And so Yaakov lifted up his feet and went to the land of the children of the east, Bnei Gad. And where he's actually going is to Aram Naharaim.
Where did he travel to? Which country is this country of the morning?
This is not the country of the morning. This is the country of Kedem. Kedem means east. And this is actually, he's on his way to Haran, which is also called the Ir Nahor, or the city of Nahor, which is where Nahor, the brother of Abraham, lived. And this is in a place called Aram Naharaim, which means Aram of the two rivers, which is supposedly the Tigris and Euphrates, between the Tigris and Euphrates. And today, Haran is in eastern Turkey.
Mesopotamia, then, or?
Yeah, it's Mesopotamia. That's where you get the word Mesopotamia, because it means between the rivers.
Two rivers, Euphrates and Tigris. Yes.
Let's see. Verse 2. ويار وهيني بئر בשדה وهيني שם 3 عدري صون ורובצים עליה כי מן הבئר ההיא ישקו העברים وهائبن غضلا على بي هبئور. And so I actually lost my place. Oh, here we are. And he looked, and he beheld a well in the wilderness, and there were 3 flocks of sheep that were lying upon this well or against the well, because from that well they watered the flocks, and the stone that was upon the face or the mouth of the well was a big stone. It was great. Good Allah. ونأسفوه شم كلها عذريم وغللوا את האבן מעל פי הבאר והשקו את הצאן והשיבו את האבן על פי הבאר למקומה. And they gathered the flocks there, and they rolled the stone from off the face of the well, and then they watered the flocks, and then they returned the stone to the mouth of the well, to its place. ويومر لهم يعقوب أخاي מאין אתם ויאמרו מחרן אנחנו. And so Yaakov says to them, my brethren, Achai, where are you from? And they said, we are from Haran. ويومر لهم هيعبأتم את לבן בן נחור ויאמרו ידענו. And so he says to them, do you know Lavan, the son of Nahor? And they said, we know. ويومر لهم השלום לו ויאמרו שלום והנה רחל בתו באה עם חסון. And so he says to them, is everything with him well? And literally that's hashalom lo. Ha here is not the article. This is the interrogative particle. This is when you want to ask a question, you use this ha. And so he's saying, does he have peace, or is there peace for him? And basically that means, is he well? And they said, he is well. And behold, Rachel, his daughter, is coming with the flocks. ויאמר حين עוד היום גדול לא עיד היאסף המחנה השקול חסון ולכו רעו. And so he says, look, the day is yet great, which means we still have a lot of day left. It is not time to gather the flocks and herds, the mikneh. Water the flocks, and then go and ra'u means to lead them out to pasture. ويومرو לא נוכל עד אשר יאספו כל העדרים וגללו את האבן מעל פי הבאר והשקינו הצאן. And so they said to him, we are not able until all of the flocks are gathered and the stone is rolled away from the mouth of the well, and we have watered the flocks.
What is the meaning of 3? Why are they 3? Why do they need 3 tribes to move the stone? Has that a special meaning, or is it just a?
No, it just says there were 3 flocks of sheep that were there. So it was just 3 different flocks that had been gathered to this place, and the stone evidently was a very big stone. You have to understand that in those days, water was a really precious commodity, and wells were often fought over, and so there was this big stone that was on the mouth of the well, and one person alone couldn't move it.
Yes, I
And
that.
yeah, and so
The question was if the number 3, because you need the 3 herds
no,
to move.
it was
No,
just when Jacob got there, there were 3 flocks of sheep that were there.
okay.
That's all that was. Verse 9. وذنوا مدبر عمام ورحيل باع إم حسون أشير لأبيها هي. And while they were still speaking, well, Yaakov was in the process of talking to him about, hey, got a lot of time, get back to work is basically what he's saying. Rachel, who was the daughter of Lavan, was coming. So she came with the sheep, which belonged to her father, because she was a shepherdess. This is Ro'ah, which is the feminine form of Ro'eh, which means a shepherd. وهي كأشر رأى يعقوب את رحيل בת לבן أخي أمه وאת צאן לבן أخي أمه ויגש יעקב ויגל את האבן מעל פי הבאר וישק את צאן לבן أخي أمه. Now this is an interesting statement because we saw earlier that the stone was a great stone, and they had to wait for the other people to get there so they can roll the stone away. All right. So evidently Yaakov was sufficient to move it by himself. It says, and so as Yaakov saw Rachel, the daughter of Lavan, his uncle, or the brother of his mother, and the flocks of Lavan, his uncle, that Yaakov approached, and he rolled the stone from off the face of the mouth of the well, and he watered the flocks of Lavan, his uncle. ويشاق يعقوب لرحيل ويساء خلو ويفق. And then Yaakov kissed Rachel, which is a strange thing to do. This is the first time he's seen her. We don't see an introduction here, right? And so he just kisses her. And then it says he lifted up his voice and he wept.
So we can say suddenly he fell in love, or?
Yeah, he was smitten with her. So, verse 12. ويغيد يعقوب لرحيل كي أخي أبيها هو وكي بن رفقة هو وتروت وتغيد لأبيها. And so Yaakov informed Rachel that he was the brother ki achi avihahu, that he was the brother of ki achi avihahu. He was the brother of her father. That's strange, but actually he was his nephew, or he was her. He was her cousin, literally. So it says here that he was the brother of her father, and that he was the son of Rivka. Rivka was her aunt. That was the sister of Lavan. Oh, hang on just a second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, give me just a second. We have somebody coming to the door.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, welcome back.
There was nobody there. I waited and waited, and nobody came. I guess they just rang the bell and wanted to get in the building.
And ran away.
So let me see. Where were we? He kissed Rachel. Said he was the. Okay, so it says.
12 or first
So,
12.
Yeah, verse 12. So he informed her that he was her cousin and that he was the son of Rivka, who was her aunt. And she ran and she informed her father. وهي كشموع لبان شمع يعقوب بن أخوثو ويروت لقرثو ويحبخ له وينشق له ويبيئه إلى بيته ويسبر للبان את כל הדברים האלה. So it says, and as Lavan had heard of the report, Yaakov, the son of his sister or his nephew, that he ran to meet him and he hugged him and he kissed him and he brought him to his house. And then he informed Lavan all of these things. ويومر له لبان أخ عتمي وبصري أتا ويشف إمه خودش يمين. And so Lavan says to him, you are certainly my bone and my flesh. And he dwelt with him Chodesh Yamim, which means about a month. Literally, it means a month of days. وَيَوْمَرَ لَبَانَ لِيَعْقُوبَ. Now, also, I want to bring your attention to something before I forget it. It says that he informed Laban all of these things, but it doesn't actually say what things it was that Yaakov informed Laban. And we're going to see in just a little bit a series of events that are going to happen. Now, in last week's parasha, we read about Yaakov buying the birthright of Esau, and then also going to his father and lying, and stealing, if you want to call it that. He was lying no matter how you look at it. He said he was Esau when in fact he wasn't. And he received the blessing of Esau as well. And then when he left out, Esau came in, and that's when Isaac says, "Your brother came b'mirma," which means with deception. And we're going to see that same verb used here in a moment. And so Yaakov comes to his uncle, and surely his uncle asks him, "What you doing here? Why are you so far away from home? Right? Is everything all right with your mom? How's your dad?" You know? And so Yaakov surely explained to him why he's there. He did something that he probably shouldn't have done. His brother's really mad, wanted to kill him, and he left. Right? His father told him, or his mother and father both told him, to go to their uncle Lavan in Haran. Okay? So he informed him everything. And so Lavan says to him, "You're my flesh and bone." And so Yaakov dwelt with him for about a month. So now you have about a month in between. ويومر لبان ليعقوب أخي أتا وعبدتني حينام حغيدا لي ما مشكورتك. And so Lavan says to Yaakov, "Certainly you are my brother, and yet you served me for nothing. Okay? Please tell me, what is your payment? What is your payment or your reward?" Meskortecha. Ulalavan shetei vanov shem haggadola Leah, or shem hakatana Rachel. Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the oldest was Leah, and the name of the youngest was Rachel. وعيني ليعا ركوث ورحيل حيثا يفت توار ويفت مرأي. Now the eyes of Leah were weak. What that actually means, we don't really know. But it seems to imply that she wasn't very pretty, because that, and when it says she had weak eyes, is juxtaposed on the fact that Rachel, it says she was beautiful. She had a very beautiful form. Okay, so what it means that she had weak eyes, we don't really know. But it seems to imply that she wasn't really that very beautiful.
One question, Hacham. Hashem presents him both in this verse, or I mean, like if you compare two women to each other, you know, the one is the less beautiful one, and the second one is exactly the dream woman of Yaakov, or?
Yep. You know, he saw Rachel first. She was the youngest, and he kissed her which implied that, hey, he was kind of smitten with her. And you'll see later it says he really loved her. And that is a thing that plays later on in the narrative, where when he ends up marrying both sisters, it says that he loved Rachel and he didn't love Leah.
Yes.
Leah was kind of forced on him, and it was because of the fact that he didn't love Leah that Rachel ended up not being able to have children at first, which is what we're about to see in just a minute. Rachel was very beautiful. Verse 18. ويهاب يعقوب את רחל ויאמר אעבדך 7 שנים ברחל בתך הקטנה. And now Yaakov loved Rachel, and he says, I would like to serve you for 7 years for Rachel, your youngest daughter. ויאמר לבן טוב תתי אותה לך מתתי אותה לאיש אחר שיבה עמדי. And so Lavan says to him, it's good to give her to you as opposed to giving her to some other man. Shiva Imadi. He says basically dwell with me or stay with me. ويعبد يعقوب برحيل 7 سنين ويحيوا بعناف كيمين أحدين بأحفظه أوثا. And Yaakov served for Rachel 7 years, and they were in his eyes as just a few days because of his love for her.
But actually it was 7 plus 7 years.
Well, not yet. It was 7. It was 7 years for Rachel.
He thought he would serve only 7 years to get Rachel.
Well, he ended up serving 7 years for Leah, which is what he didn't want. But then he had to work another 7 years for Rachel. So he only worked 7 years for Rachel. He worked 7 years for Rachel. He worked 7 years for Leah, which he didn't want. And then he worked another 7 years to get his flocks and herds. So altogether, he was there for 20-something years. Okay. So verse 19.
Let's ask again. After the first 7 years, he gets Rachel, right?
That's what we're about to read, yeah.
But under the permission that he has to take the Leah either.
Yeah, we're about to read that in just a minute. And that's going to be the next few verses.
Okay.
Where are we? Verse 21. ויאמר יעקב אל לבן, הבה את אשתי, כי מלאו ימי, ואבוא אליה. And so Yaakov says to Lavan, bring my wife, because my days are filled, they're finished, and I want to go in unto her. Which means, hey, we're ready to perform the marriage duty now. ויאסוף לבן את כל אנשי המקום ויעש משתה. And so Laban gathered all the men of the place, and he made a mishte, which literally means a drinking, but they usually translate that as a festival. So they were having a party. ויהי בערב ויקח את לאה ביתו ויבא אותה אליו ויבוא אליה. And so it was at the evening, he took Leah his daughter and he brought her to him, and he went in unto her. Okay.
Mhm.
ويتين لبان له את זלפה שפחתו ללאה בתור שפחה. And Laban gave to her Zilpah, which was his servant girl, and he gave it to Leah, gave her to Leah, his daughter, as a servant. ויהי בבוקר, והנה לאה, ויאמר אל לבן, מה זאת עשית לי? הלא ברחל עבדתי עמך, ולמה רימיתני? Now this is important to hear here. So now it happened in the morning, and he beheld that she was Leah.
Yeah, but how is he not able to make a difference, between Leah and Rachel?
Well, first is in the evening.
I mean,
And
he's marrying her, and he's going to the same room with her, and he wants to.
Yeah. So first we have to recognize this was a mishday. This was literally a drinking. So Yaakov was more than likely inebriated. He was probably drunk by the time he went in to Leah. And it was also in the evening. So we don't know how well lit that was or how this happened, but it's assumed from the context that he might have been a little drunk by the time he went in there, because he didn't realize what was going on until the next morning. I don't know if they spoke. Maybe they didn't say a word. I don't know. 'Cause maybe they had the same sounding voice. We don't know. But however it happened, he woke up the next morning. He saw this was Leah and not Rachel. And so he says to Lavan, "What is this that you've done to me? Wasn't it that I served you for Rachel? Why did you deceive me?" Now this word "rimithani," this is Ramah. This is means to deceive, to practice in a deceptive manner. And this is the imperfect, whereas you have Mirma is the noun that 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 Isaac used when Jacob came to Isaac and lied to him and deceptively took the blessing of Esau. That's the same thing that Isaac told Esau. He says, "Your brother came b'mirma," with deceptively, and took the blessing. And so now he says the same thing. He used the exact same words to Laban. Why did you deceive me? Now that's why I said pay attention at the beginning where it says that Yaakov, he explained all of these things. What things weren't actually explained, but we assume the events that led him to his uncle's house in the first place. Now here you have Lavan basically teaching Yaakov a lesson. Okay, and this is what he's about to explain. He said, "Hey, you deceived me. I worked for 7 years for the youngest daughter,
For
but
the wrong person.
right." Now listen to the answer that Lavan tells him. It says, "Wayomer Lavan lo ya'aseh b'mechomenu la'teit had sa'ira lifnei habbachira." Now, earlier she was called the Gedola, which means the older, the greater, the older, and the younger one's called the Katana, right? Here it uses two different words, and it's really cool to play on the words. So Lavan says to him, "It will not be done, or it shall not be done, such in our place." Okay, now this is what he's telling Yaakov.
He's afraid of some customs, or?
He says, "Lo ye'asechein b'mechomenu." It shall not be done so in our place. Lathat Hasa'ira, to give the younger, Lishmi Bakhira, in the presence of the firstborn, Bakhira, okay, the one who was firstborn. So now he's basically explaining to Yaakov, hey, you were a little dishonest with your father. You lied to your father and took something that didn't actually belong to you, while the firstborn was there, and now you're getting it back. It's basically what he's saying. So he's teaching him a lesson about priorities. So he just worked 7 years to get the younger. He wanted to take the younger ahead of the older.
But is it possible, Hacham, that he made this way because he was probably afraid of rumors that had he broken with the tradition or something similar to that?
No.
Or is it just a game for Lavan?
This is his uncle teaching him a lesson. Okay, and we'll see this later. Okay, when his now Esau was the older brother of Yaakov. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
technically he was the lord over Yaakov. Okay, everything that Yaakov had technically belonged to Esau. He was the firstborn; it was his right. Esau came in from the field. It says he was ayef. He thought he was going to die. He was so hungry. We don't know how long he'd been in the field. And he asked his younger brother, "Hey, can you give me a bowl of soup?" Think about this: a bowl of soup. Now, if you think about it this way, me personally, my brother, I have an older brother. Anything except for my wife, anything I have is his. He can have it. I don't care. He's my brother. I love him. I definitely wouldn't try to take advantage of him when he's about to die of hunger, right? And but no matter how you look at it, Yaakov really didn't do anything wrong in selling his soup. It just was a little extreme that it wasn't just for a few shekels; it was for everything that Esau had, which was his birthright. Now, of course, his mother had her hand in it too, because there was a prophecy about the younger serving the older, right? So Yaakov was probably uh, told about this prophecy all his life. You're going to be the Lord of your brother. So anyway, here later, and when we get to the end of this story, you'll see that Yaakov comes back. And by the time he comes back, he's done work for 21 years with the things he has. He's coming back to his brother after more than 20 years separate. All right. And instead of a bowl of soup, he's sending him lots of servants and flocks and herds. And his brother said, "Look, God blessed me too. I have enough. Keep this for yourself." Okay. But Yaakov said, "Hey, unless you take this from me, I won't live here." So he made it right in the end. And this is why. This is the process of Yaakov actually growing up. Okay.
Yes.
So he says, "It shall not be done so here that the younger shall be given in the presence of the firstborn. Malay shavua zoth, ونتنا لخا جم ات زوth, بعبود أشر تعبود إما دي عود الشيبة شنيم آخروth." And so he says, fulfill this week. So he had a week, which is what they call the marriage week. And she will also be given to you for the service of, or it, so in exchange for you to serve with me another 7 years. ويعز يعقوب كين ويملي شبوع زوت ويتن له إث رحيل بتو lo لإيشا. And so Yaakov did so, and he fulfilled that week. And he gave to him also Rachel, his daughter, as a wife. So he technically worked 7 years for Leah,
Yeah.
which was something he didn't want to begin with. Now he has
Without
worked for 7 years for the other daughter. So he ends up getting 2 daughters at the same time, but he still has to work. So he got what he wanted, but then he ended up having to work another 7 years. Which was still, no matter how you look at it, a little bit underhanded. He could have taught him a lesson without doing that. But anyway, ويتين لبان لرحيل بتو at bilha shifchatho lah shifcha. And so Laban gave to Rahel his daughter Bilha, okay, which was his servant girl, and he gave her to Rahel as a servant. And so to Leah he gave Zilpah, and to Rahel he gave uh, Bilha. ويبو قام إل رحيل ويحب قام ات رحيل من ليها ويعبد إمه all the Shivat Shanim Achirot. And so he also loved Rachel fully, and he served with Lavan another 7 years. ويار أدونai kishinua le'ah. And I'm gonna stop here for a second and look in my comment section because I don't pay attention to it while I'm reading. Okay, Masal Khair Abdghani. Must be evening wherever he's at. Good afternoon, Hakham Yaakov. Good afternoon, Ken.
Good afternoon. Shalom.
We are, and just to let you know where we're at, we are in chapter 29, and we're starting verse 31. So this is Genesis 39, and we're reading now verse 31. ويار أدوناي كي شنو لها ويفتح رحمه ورحيل عقراه. And so Adonai saw that Leah was hated. Okay? Shanua. She was hated. Yaakov hated her. All right. But he opened her womb. However, Rachel was barren. She couldn't have children. It says Akara, which basically means she was dried up. 32. وتاحر لآ وتيلد بين وتقرأ شمو رؤوبين كي أمرا كي رأى أدوناي بعونيي كي عدت يأهباني إيشي. And she Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and she called his name Reuben, which means look, a son, because she said, Adonai saw my Oni, which literally means my my affliction, or Oni could also mean to be like punishment. For now, my husband will love me. Ki yehavani ishi. Now, my husband will love me because she had a son. وتاحر عود وتيلد بين وتومر كي شامع أدوناي كي شنوع أنوخي ويتن لي غم إد زي تقرأ شمو شمعون. And so it says she became again pregnant and had another son, and she said, because God had heard that I am hated. So she had one son, Reuben, right? And the reason why she had this son was because God saw that Jacob hated Leah. All right? He loved Rachel, and he's got to work for another 7 years to get the woman he loves. Of course, he's gonna hate Rachel, hate Leah. And she had a son named Reuben, and she says, "Now my husband will love me." But we see that's not the case. All right, because she says here, God has heard that I am hated. So even after the birth of Reuben, Jacob still hated Leah. Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, and so he gave to me this, talking about the son. And so she called his name Shima'on, which means heard. وطهر عود وتيل البين تومر حتى هبعم يلوي الشيء هاي كي يلدتي له شلوش بنين القين قرات شمو لوين. And she again became pregnant, and she gave birth to a son. And she said, "This time my husband shall be joined to me, because I have given birth to 3 sons for him." And for this reason, she called his name Lewi. Okay,
Mhm.
so we have Reuben, Shima'on, and Lewi. The first 3 sons. Right? والطاهر عود والتيل البين والطومر هبتعم أوذي إف أدوناي الخين قرأ شمو يهوذا وتعمود ميلادث. And she again became pregnant, and she gave birth to a son, and she says, "This time I praise Adonai." And for this reason, she called his name Yehuda, and she stopped giving birth. Okay? Now we're going to talk about this name Yehuda. uh,
Mhm.
so here's the reason why she named him Yehuda. She says, Hapa'am Ode et Adonai. Ode is the Hifo form from Yada, which means to praise. Okay? So you have
Mhm.
Ode. In Hebrew, when you have a verb that begins with a yod, an initial yod, then in the conjugations, the yod drops out, and especially in the hifil, it becomes a wow. Okay,
Mhm.
uh, and that's why you have oh they. Uh, there's uh, no hey in there. All right, that's the hifil form. Now the name Yehuda, we have yod hey wow dalet hey Yehuda. Where does the hey come from here? I've heard many commentaries that this is a what's called a theophoric name, that Yehuda has the name of Adonai, which is spelled Yod He Waw He, in it. And we see this form in many other names, Yehoshaphat, Yehoshea, and so on and so forth. Not every name that you see with with this 3-letter prefix actually is a theophoric name. In Aramaic, now we have to understand uh, that Leah and Rachel were born in Aramaic. They spoke Aramaic, which is the language of John, who was called the Arami, the Aramean.
Mhm.
Uh, and so she named her sons with Aramaic names. Okay, Yehuda is actually an Aramaic Hofal form. Hofal is the passive form of the Hifil. And in Aramaic, the hey stays. All right. So where you would say Yuda in Hebrew, in the Aramaic Hofal, you have hey. So it's Yahuda. The hey of the Hofal remains. So this is simply an Aramaic Hofal form of the name Yehuda. Comes from the word he shall, and it means he shall be praised. Is basically what that means. It had, and to make a long story short, that is not a theophoric name. And you see this form in other names, like the name Yosef in the Psalms is actually Yehoseph, and it's the same form. It's the Aramaic form. So now we're in 30, and we're at verse 1. وتيري رحيل كي لو يلدا ليعقوب وتقني رحيل بأخوتا وتومر ليعقوب هذا لي بنيم وإن عين ميت أنوخي. And it says that Rahel saw that she was not giving birth to Yaakov, and Rahel was jealous of her sister, and she says to Yaakov, "Give me sons, and if not, then I will certainly die." ويخرعف يعقوب برحيل ويومر התחת אלוהים אנוכי أشر منع ממך פריבתן. And so Yaakov was angry at Rachel, and he says, "Am I in the place of God that I should withhold from you the fruit of the womb?" Verse 3. وتومر هني أمثي برحة بو إليها وتلد على بركاي وإبني غم أنوخي من منا. And so she says, "Behold, my this is Amathi, or Amathi, which is Amma is a synonym for Shifcha. It just means a female servant. In fact, we have that word Amma very often in Arabic. So she says, "Behold, my servant girl Bilhah, go in unto her, وَتَلِدْ عَلَى بِرَكَي, and she let her give birth upon my knees, and perhaps I will have children from her." and it's actually the same phrase that Sarah used whenever she told Abraham to go in unto Hagar. Perhaps I can have children from her. So she is giving Bilhah to Yaakov to be a surrogate mother. That's it. وتتن له את בלחה שפחתה לאישה ויבוא אליה יעקב. And so she gave to him her servant girl Bilhah as a wife, and Yaakov came in to her. وتطهر بلحة وتلد ليعقوبين, and Bilhah became pregnant and gave birth to a son for Yaakov. وتومر رحيل دناني إلهيم وغم شماء بخولي ويتين لي بين على خين قرأ شمو Dan. And so Rahel said, "God has judged me, and he has also heard my voice, and he has given to me a son, and for that reason she called his name Dan," which is a play on the verb danani, which means judge me. So Dan means judge. والطهر عوض وتهيلد بلحى شفخة رحيل بين شني ليعقوب. And so Bilhah, the servant girl of Rahel, again became pregnant and gave birth to a second son to Yaakov. وتم رحيل نفتل إلهيم نفتلتي إم أخوتي جم يخلتي وتقرأ شمو نفتالي. Now you'll see that all these names are actually plays on the verb. All right, the verb Naphtali comes from the verb patal, which literally means something that's twisted, and that's where you get the word patil. When we talk about tzitzit, we have patil, or a cord, a twisted cord. All right, and so naftal is assumed to mean to strive or struggle or wrestle, and so she says. So Rachel says, "Naf tu le Elohim," which means the wrestlings of Elohim, literally. This is in plural. Uh, Niftalti im achoti, I have wrestled with my sister, and I've also and I was also able, which is assumed to mean I was able to have a child or overcome the struggle that she had with her sister. And so she called his name Naphtali, which means my struggle. Okay. In verse 9.
I have one more question. Can we describe this situation as a competitive relationship between?
Yeah. Look, it started out, Rachel is the beloved of Yaakov.
Yes.
He hated Leah. And so God closed up the womb of Rachel. Right? Because it says he saw that he hated Leah. So Leah had the first three sons of Yaakov. And we know that by the first two, he still didn't love Leah. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm sure he loved his sons, but he still didn't like the fact that he had to marry a woman he didn't want to marry and then have to work for her another 7 years on top of it. All right. So of course there's going to be that problem. So after the third child, maybe Yahoo was starting to change his feelings. He's like, okay, maybe it's not so bad. At least she's giving me three sons. The one I love hadn't given me anything, right?
Mm.
So you know that there has to be some kind of play in that dynamic between the three of them right now.
Mm.
Here she's the beloved wife, but Yaakov spending time with Leah and her son, right?
Mm.
Now you
Correct.
see the shift of his attention and affections. Then she gives Zilpah, and Zilpah has well, we're actually going to see Zilpah here in a minute. But Rachel sees, she notices, hey, his attention's now being focused on my sister, who's given the man that I love three sons. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so now she gave Jacob Bilhah, and Bilhah had a son, actually two sons. All right, so now we're getting back to the woman that Jacob really loved. Now, okay, in her house with her servant, she has foster children now. Okay, so Leia's starting to get worried again. Oh no, he's gonna start hating me again, right? And so now we're in verse 9. وتير لها كي عمدا من لادت وتقحت زلبا شفخها وتتين أثار ليعقوب لإشاء. And so Leah saw that she had ceased from giving birth. And so she took Zilpah, her servant girl, and she gave her to Jacob as a wife. وتيلد زلبا شفخة لها ليعقوبين. And so Zilpah, who was the servant girl of Leah, gave birth to a son for Yaakov. وتومر لها Gad. وتقرأ شمو Gad. And so Leah says, Ba Gad, which means luck, or Gad is luck. luck has come, or goodness has come. And so she called his name Gad. وتيرت زلفى شفقت لها بين شني ليعقوب. And so Zilpah, the servant girl of Leah, gave birth to a second son uh, to Yaakov. وتمر لها بأشري كي يشيروني بنات وتقرأ شمو أشير. And so Leah says, it is for my happiness, بأشري, for my happiness, because uh, the happiness of daughters, ki ishiruni banot, which means literally the daughters will be happy for me. And so she called his name Asher, which means to be happy. And you see this word used many times in the Psalms, where it says, in fact, first Psalm, Asheri Ha'ish, happy is the man.
Mhm.
Verse 14. ويلך ראובן בימי קציר חיטים וימצא דודאים בשדה ויבא אותה אליה אמו ותאמר רחל אליה תנינה לי מדודאי בניך. Now, this is a really funny thing. It says, no, Reuben went out at the time of the harvest of the wheat harvest, and he found dudaim in the field. Now, dudaim is plural from dudai, which literally means uh, uh, I don't know how you would say it in English, but it has to do with love.
Mhm.
And this is where you get the word David from. David comes from the same word, which means beloved. Okay, and so basically these were an aphrodisiac, and it's supposed that these are mandrakes. We don't really know, but whatever they were considered at that time to have been some sort of aphrodisiac to make somebody potent with love. Okay,
Mhm.
and so he found these dodaim in the field, and he brought them to Leah, his mother, and Rachel said to Leah, "Give me, please, from uh, uh, these dudaim of your son's dudaim." We'll just call them mandrakes from your son's mandrakes because that's what they suppose they are, but we don't know. وَالتَّوْمِرْ لَهُ هم عد قحتيك ات إيشي ولقحت جم ات دودة أي بني وتومر راحيل الخين يشكب إمخ حليلة تحت دودة أي بنيخا. Now, so she says to her, now this is Leah speaking to Rachel, is it not enough that you have taken my man? Will you also take my son's mandrakes? Okay. And so Rachel said to her, for this reason, uh, um, he shall sleep with you tonight uh, in exchange for your son's mandrakes. Okay. ويبو يعقوب من هسده بعير وتيتسلع لكرثو وتومر لي أي تبو كي سخرتيخ بدود إيفاني ويشكب إما بليلة who so now Yaakov came in from the field at the evening time, and Leah went out to meet him, and she said, "Come to me."
Come to me, yes.
Come to me,
I
because
granted.
I have bought you with my son's mandrakes. And so he slept with her that night. So now you have to imagine Yaakov now. He's coming in from the field, and he knows he's got this dynamic between the two sisters. They're they're jealous of each other, and they're trying to produce children. So now he's doing his marriage duty with his wives and both their servant girls, and he's having children. All right. So you could just imagine what's going through his head at this point.
But he didn't give her any comment.
No, he didn't say anything. What's he gonna say? No. I mean, come on. He knows if he says no, there's gonna be even more trouble.
Yes.
Of course, he could say no, but he didn't. He understands the problem, what's going on. So he's like,
Better
oh,
is
okay.
enough. It
He,
was
he
better.
he is resigned. He is resigned to his fate with these women. All right. So he slept with her that night. 17. ويشمع إلهيم لآ والطهر وتيل ليعقوب بين خميشيم. And so God listened to the voice or listened to Leah, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a fifth son to Yaakov. وتومر لآ نثان إلهيم السخري أشر نتتي شفختي لإشي وتقرأ شمو يسخر. And so Leah says that God has given me my reward because I've given my servant girl to my husband. And so she called his name Yisachar, which means basically Yisachar means he rewards, or Yisachar, which would probably be he is a reward. Yeah.
So Yisachar was the fifth child, right?
The
The fifth
fifth
son.
child of Leah.
Okay.
وَالطَّهَرَ عود ليا وتيلد بين شيشي. And so Leah again became pregnant, and she gave birth to a sixth son for Yaakov. وتمر ليا زبدني אלוהים אותי זבד טוב. הפעם יזבלני אישי כי ילדתי לו שישה בנים ותקרא את שמו זבולון. And so Leah said, Zivadani Elohim Uthi Zebatov. And so Leah said that God has now rewarded me with a really good reward. This time, Yizbalani Ishi. This time, my husband shall. This is kind of strange because Zavalun, okay. It could mean a tent, I guess. So my husband shall tent with me or live with me, because I've given birth to him a sixth son. And she called his name Zebulun. Zebulun, it can mean one of two things. It can mean like a tent, or it can also mean a prince. It's interesting. It's an interesting word. Just check my stream here, make sure I don't have any questions. All right, we are on 21. وأخار يلدبات وتقرأ الشماح دينا. And after that, she gave birth to a daughter, and she called her name Dinah. So verse 22. ويذكر إلهيم את رحيل ويشمع عليها إلهيم ويفتح et رحمة. And so Adonai remembered, or he considered Rachel, and he listened to, and Elohim listened to her, or God listened to her, and he opened her womb finally. Right? وتحار وتيرت بين وتومر أساف إلهيم et حيربثي وتقرأ et شمو يوسف لمور يوسف أدونai لي بين أخير. Now this is a play on two words. You have Asaph and then you have Yesaph. Right? Asaph means to take something away, and Yesaph means to add something. But they're really close. They're two different verbs, but they're really close. And so it says, and she became pregnant, gave birth to a son, and she says, God has now taken away my shame. And so she called his name Yosef, saying, God has added to me another son. All right? Ki Yosef Adonai li. God has added to me, or God is adding to me. This is the participle, Yosef. وهي كأشر يلد رحيل את יוסף ויאמר יעקב אל לבן שלחני ואליך אל מקומי ולארצי. So as Rahel gave birth to Joseph, Jacob says to Lavan, send me away because I want to go to my place, to my land. Okay. Now, it's interesting. Abraham was born not in Canaan. He told his servant to go to his place, Artzi, and to my relatives, right, and find a wife for my son Isaac. Now, Yaakov says, I want to go to my place. So this is talking about where he was born. Right?
Yeah,
He
but
was born. Yaakov was born in Canaan. Abraham was, huh?
I mean, this was his his dream he had before.
No, not yet. Yaakov is telling his uncle after Joseph is born. He says, look, send me back to my place. I want to go back to my land. All right?
Yes.
And the point is, when Abraham was in Canaan, after he had left Haran, came to Canaan, Isaac is born there. He sends his servant back to his land. He says, go to my land, to my relatives, and you take a wife from my father's house, from my people, for Isaac. Now here we have Yaakov who went to the same place. He went to the same family, got both the daughters of his uncle, and now he tells his uncle, send me away. I want to go back to my place. And that's the point I'm getting at, where Abraham told his servant, go to Artzi, to my land, which was in Haran. Yaakov told his uncle, I want to go to my Artzi, to my land. And that's what I'm getting at. That's the differences. Abraham was born somewhere else. Yaakov was actually born in Canaan. So if Abraham was there, he couldn't tell Laban, send me to my land, because that was actually the land of Abraham. Right?
All right.
All right. So he tells his uncle, send me away because I want to go to my place and to my land. 26. תנה את נשאי ואת ילדי אשר עבדתי אותך בהן ואליך כי אתה ידעת את עבודתי אשר עבדתיך. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have worked or I have served you, not because I want to go. And you know my service, that the service of how I served with you. ויאמר אליו לבן, אמנה מצאתי חן בעיניך, ניחשתי ויברכני Adonai b'galecha. And Lavan says to him, if I have found grace in your eyes, ניחשתי, ניחשתי, I have divined, is literally what it says. For God has blessed me because of your sake. ويمار نقبة سكرخ علي واتنا. And so he says, appoint for me your reward that I may give you. ويمر إلى, this is Jacob speaking to him, أنت يدعت أسر عبدتيك وأسر حياة مثلك أتي. And so he says, you certainly have known my service in how your miknecha, this is talking about your flocks and your herd, your livestock, were with me. כי מעט אשר היה לך לפני, ויפרוץ לרוב, ויברך אדוני אותך לרגלי, ועתה עשה אעשה גם אנוכי לביתי. And so he says, for כי מעט אשר היה לך לפני, because what you had was a little bit, right, before me. And now it has and it has basically blown up to be a lot. And Adonai has blessed you because of me. So and so he's saying, and now when shall I make also for me a house? So this is the question. So he's worked for 14 years. Lavan has been blessed because of the service of his nephew. Yaakov now has 4 wives, and I think this is 11 sons now. He has 11 sons. Now he's wanting to provide for his own house. Okay. ويومر ما اتن لك ويومر يعقوب لو تتن لي ويومر يعقوب لو تتن لي מאומה אם תעשה לי הדבר הזה השובה יראה שונאך אשמור. And so Yaakov, so this is Lavan speaking to Yaakov first. He says to him, what shall I give to you? And Yaakov says, you shall not give to me anything. You won't give me nothing at all. Except you shall do this thing to me. I shall return, and I shall keep your flock and Ishmor, and basically keep charge of them and protect them. اعبر بكل صنخ היום حسير משם كل سه نخوض وتلوي وكل سه خום بخסבים والتلو والنقود بعزيم وهي سفري. And so he says, I will pass through your flock. I will pass through your flock today. Okay, and I will remove haser misham, removing from there. Haser is the infinitive, removing from there every speckled. This is or dotted. Literally, it's dotted uh, lamb or say. It could be cattle or sheep, and spotted cow. Could say نخود وتلو, and every brown sheep or lamb. كل سيحوم بكسبين وتلو نخود بعزين وهي السخرين. And every brown sheep and every speckled and spotted goat shall be my reward. Okay, so he's basically saying anything that's spotted, speckled, or brown amongst the sheep and the goats, and it could also be the cows, the cattle. Then that will be my reward, my payment. All right. وعنت بي صدقتي بيوم محار كي تبو السخري لفنيخ كل أشر أيننو نقود وتلوي بعزيم وهم خبسيم غنوف هو إثنين. And so shall my righteousness answer for me tomorrow, beyond Nahar, or in the day to come. All right. And Kitabo al Safari, when you come to look at when you come upon my hire or my wages before you, everything that is not spotted or speckled amongst the goats, these are the female goats also, or brown amongst the kevasim. The kevas can be the sheep, and kevas can also be cows too. It shall be considered stolen with me. All right. ويومر لبان حين lu يهي كدبريخة. And so Laban said to him, okay, perfect. So shall it be according to your word. So I'm going to stop just a moment, give my eyes a rest, and ask if you have any questions. Anybody got any questions so far? Any comments, anything. Doesn't make any difference. We can talk about it. I just got to rest my eyeballs for a minute. And how's this sound? Does it sound still good?
It is good, but I think maybe you should use another microphone.
Is it better so?
The audio is very sensitive, you know. I can hear a lot of crackling and knistern in German.
Yeah, that's probably my beard.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of hold it this way then. Okay, so if there's no questions right now, then I'll continue to read. Let me see where we're at. We are in Chamishi. So we are now in the fifth Aliyah. We only have 6 and the 7th to go, and then we're done. Okay, so we are in chapter 30. We're going to start now, verse 34. And I'll hold it here so that you can hear. Actually, we already read 34. So we're going to be in 35. Yeah, we're in 35. ويسار بيوم هو את התיישים העקודים והתלויים ואת כל העזים הנקדות והתלויות כל אשר לבן בו וכל חום בכסבים ויתן ביד בניו. And so on that day, he removed the male goats that were striped and spotted, and all the female goats, the tiashim is the male goats, azim is the female goats, that were speckled and spotted, and all that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and he gave them into the hands of his sons. וישם דרך של 6 ימים בינו ובין יעקב, ויעקב רועה את צאן לבן הנותרות. And so he set a distance of 3 days between him and between Yaakov. And Yaakov, he shepherded. He was the shepherd of the flocks of Lavan, and all the remaining flocks of Lavan. ويقح له يعقوب مقال לבני لح واللوز وعرمون ويفصل بهن فصلات לבנות מחשוף הלבן אשר על המחלות. And so Yaakov took a rod, a maqal of Livan or Livnilach, which is a green or a Livna, I think is a poplar, what they call a poplar, a green poplar, and also an almond. An almond in plain, and he made stripes. He basically peeled it and put stripes on it. And made the levana, the whiteness of it, appear on the rods. ויצר את המקלות אשר פיצל ברחתים בשכתות המים אשר תבואנה הצאן לשתות לנוכח הצאן. ويحمنا ببوءن. No, that's actually ببونا لشتوت. And so he sets the rods which he had peeled before the flocks, in the gutters of the watering troughs, when the flocks came to drink, that they should. Now this is a funny word. It says وَيَيْحَمْنَا, which actually means they would get it in heat. They would become hot. Okay? This is from the verb ham, which means to be hot. And so we even use that today in English when we say that the animal goes in heat. That means they become sexually active and are ready to reproduce. So that they would become sexually active as they come to drink. ويهمو حسون إلى حمقلوف وتلدنا حسون عقوديم نقوديم وأتلوئيم. And so the flocks became, or they went into heat, or they became sexually active before the rods, and the flocks gave birth to speckled and striped. وحكفسيم حفريد يعقوب ويتين بني حفصون إل عقوب وخذ حوم بصون لبان ويشث لو عرريم لفادو ولو شثام على صون لبان. And so Yaakov separated the lambs, the chivas, and he set the faces of the flocks toward the striped, and all the brown amongst the flock of Laban, and he put his own flocks by themselves, or he puts his own herds by themselves, and he did not put them among Laban's flocks and herds. وحياة بكل يحيم הצאן המקושרות ושם יעקב את המקלות לעיני הצאן ברחתים ליחמנה במחלות. And so it so happened that whenever בכל יחיים הצאן מקושרות. And so it happened when the stronger of the flock would become sexually active, that Yaakov would set the rods before their eyes, or before the cattle before the eyes of the flocks in the watering troughs, and so that they would become sexually active with these machalot, which are the rods that he'd put the white stripes, because apparently he's using these as a form to make certain ones that were already striped sexually active. That's what he's doing. So the ones that weren't striped or spotted or speckled, he wouldn't put those rods in their watering trough. He would only do that when these certain types would come there, so that they would become sexually active and breed more. So that's basically what's going on. He's using these rods as a form of like an aphrodisiac or something to help them become sexually active. הוא והעטיף הצאן לא ישים, והעטופים ללבן והקישורים ליעקב. As for the weak of the flock, he wouldn't do so. He wouldn't set these rods in the watering troughs before the weak ones. And so the weak ones he would give to Lavan, and the strong ones would be for Yaakov. ويفرط האיש מאוד מאוד ויהי צאן רבות ושפחות ועבדים וגמלים וחמורים. And so the man's Yifros, and this is something that we read earlier at the beginning of the Parashath, where God speaking to him at Bethel, and he said, "You will break out, you will spread out to the west, to the east, to the north, and south." So this is the same word, what Yifrot, basically means he broke out. And it's also the same word that's used whenever we read in the Torah later about an outbreak of the plague. Same word. So it says the man broke out very much. All right. And he had many flocks, female servants, male servants, camels, and mules or asses. Chamor, mule. וישמע את דברי בני לבן לאמור, לקח יעקב את כל אשר לאבינו, ומאשר לאבינו עשה את כל הכבוד הזה. And so he heard the words of Laban's sons, who were saying, Yaakov has taken everything that was our father's. And and also from that which is our father's, he made this great kavod. Kavod is usually translated as honor. Okay, excuse me, I apologize. I miss your questions. I don't see them. I'm not looking at the comments. So I have a question here. Is the trick with the white rods described to Jacob by the angels? Because later he tells his wives that an angel appeared in a dream and showed him that all the he-goats mounting animals are rings. Back on. I don't really know, and that's a good question. All we know is that he was using these rods, and in fact, when we go back to the beginning, this is something I mentioned at the beginning, was that we talked about where God says that I won't leave you or forsake you until I do all these things that I have spoken to you. But there wasn't anything spoken to him right there. And so this could be a part of what was spoken, because it says that an angel appeared to him. And we don't know if that's talking about now or later or whatever. We know that in the end, the angel finally tells him, hey, it's time to go back. All right. So it could have been a part of something that he told him at the very beginning. We don't really know. But Yaakov was using that method for some reason.
Was it Hashem or the angel who told him to go back?
Okay. This is something that comes up a lot. The angel, which is called the Melech Adonai, and Hashem are basically the same person. Okay. And this was a question that I was asked a while back. I don't remember who asked me. But when we see every time in the Tanakh, it says, "Yera elav Adonai," that God appeared to him. The verb "Yera" is a nifal, which basically means he was seen. All right. Now we know that God tells Moses that no man can see me and live. Yet it says that he spoke to Moses face to face, right? As a man spoke to his neighbor. But when Moses is standing on the mountain speaking to God, right? He tells God, show me your presence, show me your glory. Right? But God tells him, you can't see my face and you can't see my glory, but you can see my my backwards parts, basically what he says. But yet it says that Moses spoke to God face to face, and he actually beheld the form of God. And it uses the word tamuna. Tamuna means a form, a type. Well, what does that mean? Well, we know that every time that it says that God spoke with Abraham, it was either in a vision or it was in a dream. Okay? And then we have one scene where it was three people. So this was an incarnated form. Who are they? We're told in the next chapter that these were two of them were at least were angels, right? But one of these people was called Hashem himself. Now, when we look at the instance of the burning bush, when Moses first spoke with God, it says that the Malach Adonai appeared in the flame of fire, but yet it was Adonai himself who spoke to Moses, right?
Right.
So who was it? Was it the angel or was it Adonai? Now, if we go forward to the end of the events of the Exodus, at the events of the Pesach, it says that a pillar of fire appeared, and that it was the Malach Adonai who was actually in this pillar of fire.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this pillar of fire was later in chapter 16 of Exodus called the glory of God, the Kavod Adonai. When we see the events that the Israelites are gathered around the mountain, they're looking at this mountain burning with fire. It says this same pillar of fire descended upon the top of the mountain, and the whole top of the mountain was on fire. And it says that the Kavod of God, of Adonai, the glory of God, appeared to the Israelites like a consuming fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was this pillar of fire. Every time it says that Adonai descended upon the Mishkan, the tabernacle or the tent meeting, that it was in this pillar of fire. Yes, it would appear and Moses would speak. So my opinion, my own personal opinion, is that anytime it talks about God appearing or speaking to somebody, it's either in one of three forms. It's either in a vision, which is a vision is not real,
Mm-hmm.
or it's in a dream, which is basically the same thing as a vision, only you're asleep, or it's in the form of an angelic visitation, and that's what is called the Malach Adonai. And that's why you always see that the Malach Adonai, is sometimes it says Adonai, Malach Adonai, and they're interchangeable. All right.
But one more
And
question, Aham. That Jacob's letter, that passage we had at the beginning, there it is stated clearly that at the end, on the top of the letter, it's Hashem,
right.
and the figures or angels going up and down are the angels or not? So
Yeah,
it's
that's
clearly
true.
different between Hashem and the angels.
Right. And whatever it was that Yaakov actually saw, it was not God himself.
Okay.
It was not what the reality of Hashem really is, because he tells Moses, even Moses couldn't see him. Okay?
Okay.
Because nobody can see the reality, whatever this was. In the conversation that Moses has with him, he says, "You can't see my presence, and or my panai, my face, and you can't see my kavod, because no man can see me and live." Right?
Yes.
So whatever it is that Moses saw, and whatever it was he was speaking with, even though it was called Adonai, was not the reality of who Adonai was. It was something that represented him here in this physical realm that we have to work within. And so that's why there was a Quraysh Hacham named Daniel Al-Khumizi, I think. It might be Benjamin Nahawindi. I don't remember which one it was. It was one of those two. I think it was Khumizi, who basically says that when it talks about the God who created the heaven and the earth, that was actually in the form of the Malach Adonai, and that this angel was the physical representation of Hashem himself in this area, in this realm of physicality. And it was through this method that he spoke to the prophets. And if you read between the lines, that's what's hinted at. Because in one side it says you can't speak with me or you can't see me, my face or my form. God doesn't have a form. On the other side it says Moses saw a form. It says he saw the Tamuth Adonai. What do you mean he had a form? When the Israelites were looking at the mountain, all they heard was a voice. They didn't see a form. But Moses saw a form. And it says the form was the angel. It was the same form that Abraham saw. You know, he was this physical form. This was an angel, one of 3 angels, and that angel was called Adonai. Was he himself literally the creator of the universe? No. I believe he was an angelic representation in this physical realm. And just like when a prophet speaks and he says, Adonai says, it's the same process when the angel of Adonai speaks. It's just like God himself is speaking. Okay? That's just my opinion. Who am I? I might be wrong. Might not be what I'm talking about. And I've lost my place. Where were we? Okay. And so he heard the words of Laban's son saying that, you know, he's taken everything that our father had, right? וירא יעקב את פני לבן, והנה איננו עמו כתמול שלשום. And Yaakov saw the face of Laban, that it was not with him as it was the days before. ויאמר אדוני אל יעקב, שוב אל ארץ אבותיך ולמולדתך ואהיה עמך. Now this is an interesting phrase here. Now Adonai says to Yaakov, go to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I shall be with you. Whereas with Abraham had to say the land of my fathers was not the land of Canaan. But here, Yaakov is told that the land of his fathers is actually Canaan, right? וישלח יעקב ויקרא לרחל ולאה השדה אל שונו. And so Yaakov sent and called for Rachel and Leah in the field with his or to the field to his flocks. And ויאמר להן רואה אנוכי את פני אביכן כי איננו אלייך כתמול שלשום ואלוהי אבי היה עמדי. And he says to them, I have seen the face of your father, that it is no longer toward me as it was in the earlier days. And the God of my father was with me. وأتينا يذعتن כי בכל כוחי עבדתי את אביכם. And you know, Atena, this is from Aten, and you know my power, or the power that I have served your father. وأبيخن هيثل بي وهيغلف את משכורתי עשרת מונים ולא נתנו Elohim lihara imadi. And your father, basically he was deceptive to me, and he exchanged my wages 10 times. And however, God did not allow him to do anything hurtful or wrong to me. Oh, I got somebody trying to come in.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome to the live stream, Dwight. All right. Imko Yomar Nikodim Yehe Secharecha Yaladu Kul Hason Nikodim Imko Yomar Akudim Yehe Secharecha Yaladu Kul Hason Akudim. And if he said, "Thus the speckled shall be your payment," then all would be then all would have been born speckled. And if he'd said, "Thus that the striped ones shall be your payment," then all would have born striped. ويتسل Elohim et مخنى أبيكم ويتن لي. Now, this is an interesting verb too. It says, "Yetzel Elohim." Yetzel is the Hebrew form of Natsal, and this is used. Natsal means literally to rescue, and we see this used in several places. And here we see it in the flocks of Lavan that Yaakov had just made for himself. And it says he's rescued it from Laban. But when we see the Israelites coming out of Egypt with all this wealth of the Egyptians, it used the same verb that they rescued, or usually they have it that they stripped or they plundered the wealth of the Egyptians, I think is what they use in English. But actually, it just means that they rescued it. Whenever you ask God to rescue you in prayer, you use the same verb. And so it's really interesting. So God rescued the livestock of your father, and he gave it to me. Basically, what is it? He stripped it away and gave it to me. ويهي بعيد يرحم هتسون وعسى عيناي وعيرة بخلوم وهني عدوديم حعوليم على حسون أقديم نقديم أوبي روديم. And so it happened at that time, as the flocks Yahim, which literally means they became sexually active, but you could even say as they conceived, I lifted up my eyes and beheld in a dream. Okay, and behold, the rams were coming up upon the flocks, who had stripes and spotted, and they were also speckled. ويومر إلي ملأ Elohim بحلم يعقوب وأمر هنني. And the angel of God spoke to me in a dream, Yaakov, and I said, here I am. ويومر صنع عينيك ورأي كل העתודים על חצון עקודים נקודים ובירודים כי ראיתי את כל אשר לבן עושה לך. And the angel of God spoke to me in a dream, saying, Yaakov, and I said, here I am. And he says, lift up now your eyes and look. All the lambs that are coming up upon the flocks are striped, they're spotted, and they're speckled, because I have seen that all that Laban has done or is doing to you. So there you have where they're talking about Yaakov actually saw this in a vision, in a dream, as he spoke to the angel of God. אנוכי האל בית אל, אשר משחת שם מצבה, אשר נדרת לי שם נדר. עתה קום, צא מן הארץ הזאת, ושוב אל ארץ מולדתך. He says, I am the God of Bethel, which you anointed, or where you anointed there the Matzevah. This is the standing stone that he poured the oil upon. And this is the first time we have the word anoint in the Tanakh, where you anointed there the Matzevah, and where you swore to me there an oath. Now stand up and leave out from this land and return to the land of your relatives. وتعن رحيل وليا وتمرنا له העוד לנו חלק ונחלה בבית אבינו. So Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, Ha'od lanu, is there any longer for us a portion or an inheritance in the house of our father? Hello, Nochrioth, Nichshavnu lo, Ki Mekaranu, Wayochal Gam Achol et Kaspenu. Are we not considered as foreign women, foreigners, Nochrioth? Because he has sold us, and he has also certainly eaten our money, our wealth, or he has consumed our wealth. ככל העושר אשר הציל אלוהים מאבינו לנו הוא ולבנינו ועתה כל אשר אמר אלוהים אליך עשה. For all of the wealth that Elohim has taken away from our father, it is also for us and for our children. So now, everything that Elohim has spoken to you, do it. ويقوم يعقوب ويسع את בניו وאת נשיו על הגמלים. So Yaakov stood up and he set his sons and his wives upon the camels. وينهر את כל מקנהו ואת כל רכושו אשר רכש מקנה קניינו אשר רכש בפדן ארם לבוא אל יצחק אביו ארצה כנען. So he drove all of the livestock and all of the possessions which he had possessed, and livestock that he had acquired, which he rachash, which means he basically possessed in the Padan Aram, to go to Isaac his father. So he drove them to go to Isaac his father, in the land of Canaan. ולבן הלך לגזוז את צאנו ותגנוב רחל את הטרפים אשר לאביה. And so Laban went to shear his flock, and Rachel had stolen the teraphim that belonged to her father. Now, what teraphim are, we don't really know, but there seemed to be some sort of idol, maybe a family idol or something like that. We don't really know. ויגנוב יעקב את לב לבן הארמי על בלי הגיד לו כי בורח הוא. And so Yaakov stole the heart of Laban, the Aramean, Ha'arami, because he had not informed him that he was fleeing, Boreach, that he was fleeing away. ويفرح هو وكل أشر له ويقوم ويعبر את النهر ويسم את פניו הר הגלעד. And so he fled in all that he had, and ويقوم, and he stood up and he crossed over the river, and he set his face toward Mount Gilead. ويغادر لبان بيوم השלישי כי ברח יעקב. And so Lavan was informed in the third day that Yaakov had fled. So now Yaakov's got a 3-day head start on him. All right. ويقח את אחיו עמו וירדוף אחריו דרך 7 ימים. וידבק אותו בהר הגלעד. And he took his brethren with him, and he pursued after him. This was 7 days, so it took him actually 7 days to catch up with him. And so it says, وَيَدْبَيْخ أَوْثَو بَهَار Gilad. And it says, and he stuck to him. Basically what it was. He caught up with him at the Mount of Gilead. ויבוא אלוהים אל לבן הארמי בחלום הלילה ויאמר לו הישמר לך פן תדבר עם יעקב מטוב עד רע. And so God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream that night, and he says to him, be very careful lest you say anything, or unless you speak with Yaakov anything of good or evil. So, ויסך לבן את יעקב ויעקב תקח את אוהלו בהר לבן תקע את אחיו בהר הגלעד. Okay. ויסך לבן את יעקב ויעקב תקע את אוהלו בהר ולבן תקע את אחיו בהר הגלעד. So Lavan caught up with Yaakov where he overtook him, and Yaakov had set his tent, or he pitched his tent in Bahar in the mountain, and Lavan pitched with his brothers at Har, or at Mount Gilead. So evidently Yaakov was on the mountain of Gilead, and Lavan was like encamped around it, or so it seems to me.
Hacham, there is one question. Can you see the comment section?
Yeah.
The question from Nicola Ruja, does this
Okay,
express
the last one, yeah.
good
So
or
the
evil?
question, yeah, the question is, does this expression, either good or evil, have more nuanced meaning in Hebrew? Why would it be bad to speak good to someone? Does it mean to not speak at all? Uh, it just says, be careful lest you speak with Yaakov of good, even until evil. It says, mitov ad ara, which means from good unto evil. So basically, he's telling him, don't start off speaking good to Yaakov, and then bring something bad in the course of that discussion. What he's talking about. It's not that he's saying either good or evil. It's just saying mitov adara. Ad means up unto a point of evil. When you come unto something. In fact, you even use when you talk about returning to God, it says you talk about the teshuvah, and this is ad Elohim, unto Elohim. So he's saying, don't let you speak with Yaakov from the good up unto the evil, which is, in my opinion, that's saying don't go from speaking good to Yaakov to saying something that's bad or evil.
But Hacham, is it possible to understand this passage as not talking to Jacob at all?
No, because he starts speaking to Yaakov to begin with.
Okay.
And so if God just threatened him, warned him, don't you say a word to Yaakov, then he violated that right away. So what he's saying is, be careful. Stay speaking good to Yaakov. Don't go from the good to the evil, to something bad. All right. And whatever else we have to get from the story, Lavan, you have to understand, and there's lots of rabbinic commentary about this, saying that Lavan he was trying to kill Yaakov, he wanted to destroy Yaakov. That's not true. Yaakov was his nephew, number one. Okay, he was his sister's son. He was the husband of his two daughters and the father of all of his grandchildren. All right. Now Yaakov snuck off because he was afraid. He didn't tell Laban he was leaving. He just snuck off. In the course of him sneaking off, Rachel stole something that belonged to his father, which was the household deities, these teraphim. Now, Lavan, it says it stole his heart. You know, when you come home and something's missing, and you get that first initial shock and fear. Oh, it's gone. That's what it says happened to Lavan when he realized that Yaakov had fled. All right, took his grandson. He didn't even get to say goodbye to his daughters and his grandsons. Right, and so you can imagine that he's a little upset about it. All right, what Lavan would have done, we don't know. Yaakov just understood from the way he tricked him with Leah. He ended up working 14 years, another 21 years, and he kept changing his payment. He was afraid that he was going to be stuck there working for this guy forever, and so he left. He said, let's just get the hell out of here." And that's what he did. So this is the situation now. So Yaakov's gone. Lavan is chasing after him, catches up with him 7 days later, and in this 7-day period, God came to Lavan and said, "Hey, be careful what you do here," you know. And so Lavan didn't actually do anything wrong in the story anywhere, other than he changed the payment of Yaakov around according to Yaakov 10 times. All right, but he certainly didn't seek to kill Yaakov or to destroy his. Just think about that. That's insane to even think about this. This guy wants to go out and destroy his grandchildren. No, it makes no sense. But anyway, so that's this situation here. Yaakov's on the hill. Lavan and his brothers seem to be camped around the hill. It's been 7 days since they've spoken to each other, and now we're coming to the conversation. ويومر لبان ليعقوب ما عصيت وتغنوب ات لبابي وتنحير ات بنوثاي كشفيوت حرف. And so Laban says to Yaakov, what have you done? You've stolen my heart, and you've driven my daughters as if captive women, as if women who were captured by the sword. Okay. لما نخبيث لبروح وتغنب أوثي ولو هجادت لي وأشلحك بسمخة وبشيريم بثوف وبخنور. Okay, and so he says, why? Basically, to hide. Why did you hide? To flee, or why did you conceal fleeing? And you stole me. And you didn't, or you robbed me, and you didn't inform me that I may send you away with simcha, which is gladness, or vishirim, with songs, bitov, with kinur, with tof is I think is a tambourine, and a kinor is a harp. ולא נטשתני לנשך לבני ולבנותי אתה השכלת עשו. And he says, why didn't you allow me to kiss my sons, talking about his grandsons, and my daughters? And now you have his skalta, you have done foolishly. It's a foolish thing that you have done. Yesh le'el yadi li'asot imma chimra وإلهي أبيكم إمس أمر إلي لمر هشمر لخا ندبر إم يعقوب متوب عد أرع. He says, it is in my power. Yesh le'el yadi. El is literally is God, but is talking about power here. It's in the power of my hand to do something bad to you. But the God of your fathers said to me last night, be careful lest you speak with Yaakov from good to evil. وَعَتَى هَلَوْخ هَلَخْتَ כי נחשפת לבית אביך. ואתה הלוך הלכת. And now you've surely gone. כי נחשפת, because you have certainly had the longing for your father's house. لما غنفت את Elohai. Why then have you stole my gods? So that lets you know what the teraphim are. It says that Rachel took the teraphim, and he says these are his gods. So the teraphim are some type of idol. Okay. ويعن يعقوب ويومر للبان كي يريثي كي أمارتي بن تغزل et بنوثيخا ميمين. And so Yaakov answered Lavan, and he says, because I was afraid, because for I have said, perhaps you would. Tigzol is like robbing or stealing, but with force. You would take by force your daughters from me. Im asher timsa et Elohecha lo yihye neged achenu hakir lecha ma imadi וכך לך, ולא ידע יעקב כי רחל גנבתם. And so he says, with the one that you find your gods, there shall not be literally lo yihye neged achenu. Basically, there wouldn't be let him not live. So lo yiche im asher timsa et Elohecha lo yiche. So with whoever you have found your gods, he shall not live. Neged achenu hakir lecha ma imadi b'chach lach. So before our brothers, or in the presence of our brothers, let it be hakir lecha, let it be pointed out, or let it be nakir means to be recognized to you. What is with me, and take it for yourself. But Yaakov didn't know that Rachel had stolen. Who in the world is calling me? It's my grandma. My grandma's calling me. I have to call her back later. Excuse me. But Yaakov did not know that Rachel had stolen them. ויבוא לבן באוהל יעקב ובאוהל לאה ובאוהל שתי האמהות ולא מצא ויצא מאוהל לאה ויבוא באוהל רחל. So Lavan went into the tent of Yaakov, the tent of Leah, the tent of the two servant girls, and he did not find anything. So he went out from the tent of Leah and he entered into the tent of Rachel. ورحيل لقحا את התרפים ותשימם בחור הגמל ותשב עליהם וימשש לבן את כל האוכל ולא מצא. And so Rachel took the teraphim, these are the gods, and she set them in a kar hagamel, which is a camel's saddle, and she sat upon them. So Lavan, he yimashesh, which literally means he ransacked everything in the tent, but he didn't find it. وَتُمِرْ إِلْ أَبِيهَا אל יחר בעיני אדוני, כי לא אוכל לקום מפניך, כי דרך נשים לי. ויחפש ולא מצא את הטרפים. And so she says to her father, don't let it be, don't let my Lord be angry, because I'm not able to stand before you, because the ways of women are upon me. And he searched, but he did not find the teraphim. ويحار يعقوب ويعرف بلبان ويعن يعقوب ويومر لبان ما بشعي ما حتاتي كي دلخت أخراي. And Yaakov was really angry, and he argued with Laban, and Yaakov answered, and he said to Laban, "What is my crime? What is my sin that you have pursued after me?" Excuse me. Yeah, I got people writing me. Sorry about that. כי מששת את כל כלי, מה מצאת מכל כלי ביתך? שים כוח נגד אחי ואחיך, ויוכיחו בין שנינו. And so he says, for you have thoroughly searched all of my possessions. What have you found of all of the articles of your house? Set them here before my brothers and your brothers, and point them out, or let them be yokichu bein shanina, and let them be pointed out between the two of us. Or yeah. זה 20 שנה, אנוכי עמך, רחילך ועזיך לא שקלו, ואלה שונאיך לא אכלתי. He says, these 20 years, okay, these 20 years I've been, I was with you, your Rachlecha, this is where you get the name Rachel, which is your lambs, your ewe lambs and your female goats. Have not miscarried, and your ram and the rams of your flocks I have not eaten. Tarefa lo haveithi elecha anochi hatinna miyadi tebegashinna ganufti yom ganufti leila. That which was torn, the tarefa, that's where you get the word treif, where they talk about the treif food. It's just means something that's torn by an animal. I have not brought to you. Anochi hatinna, I have made it good from my hand. Anochi hatinna miyadi tevachashinna. From my hand, I bore the loss, or I made it good. And you required it of my hand. Stolen by day, genufti yom, stolen by day, genufti leila, or stolen by night. Hayiti bayom achalani. Hayiti bayom achalani choref wakerach balela watidar Shinati Me'anai. And so it was in the day, even if it was by a Horev, which means a drought, if it was eaten by drought or by cold in the night. What did that Shinatai Mana, and the sleep was chased away from my eyes. Zeli Isrim Shana Bivetecha. Avticha Arba Isrei Shana Bishtei Benotecha Washesh Shanim Bitsonecha وتحالف et mas kurti aseret munin. And so I have been 20 years in your house. I have served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flocks. So it's 14. Yeah, that's 20 years. 6 years for your flocks, and you have changed my payment 10 times. Lule Elohei Avi, Elohei Abraham, Ufachad Yitzhak Hayali, Ki Ata Reicham Shilachtani et Oni et Yagia Kapai Ra Elohim Wayokach Amish. And he says, except Lu Le Elohim Avi, except the God of my fathers, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been with me. Surely you would have now, Ki Ata Reicham, you would have now sent me away Reicham, which means empty-handed. And that's the same word that is used when you have to appear before God, those 3 times in the year for the pilgrimage festivals. He says, nobody should appear before me empty-handed. Reikam is the word they use there. You would certainly have sent me away empty-handed. And et onni wa et yagia kapai ra Elohim. But God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and he has rebuked you, Amish, which means last night. Well, Yokach Amish, and he has rebuked last night. وَيَعْنْ لَبَانْ وَيُمَرْ إِلْيَعْقُوبْ حَبَّنُوثْ بَنُوثَي وَحَبَّنِيم بَنَاي وَحَتْسُون صُونِي وَقُلْ أَشَرْ أَتَّى رُؤَى لِي هُ وَلِبْنُوثَي مَا أَسَيْ لَأَيْلَ هَيَوْم O live Nahan Asher Yeladu. And so Lavan, let's see, I got another question. Is there any particular meaning in the expression fear of Isaac? I don't know. For Chad Yitzhak, we know that it was the fear. I'm trying to think how it was when Isaac was with, I think it was Avimelech, and it talked about the fear of God was upon the people. That's why nobody touched him. That's why nobody. They said that they knew that God was with him. Yeah. You'll hear my cat meowing. So let me get back in. So it says, Lavan answered and he said to Yaakov, the daughters are my daughters, and the sons are my sons, and the flocks are my flocks, and all that you see they are mine. And to my daughters, what shall I do? What shall I do to these today, or to their sons, which they have given birth? So this is the point that he's saying. This is the biggest gripe he's saying. Look, these daughters are my daughters. All right, their sons are also my sons. They're his grandsons. Even the animals that Yaakov have were born from his animals. They're technically his too, even though they were his payment, technically. He's like, what am I going to do to them? You know, everything that Yaakov has came from Lavan. He's like, what would I do to destroy them? You know, that's basically what he's getting at. He's like, what would I have done to him? وَعَتَّى لِخَا نِخْرَثَا ظَرِيث أَنِي وَأَتَى وَهَيَ لَعِيدَ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنِخَا. And now, come, we shall cut a covenant, me and you, and it shall be a witness between me and between you. وَيِقَحْ يَعْقُوب عَاذًا وَيَرِمَيْهَا مِتْسَيْبَةً. And so Yaakov took a stone and he set it up as a metzeva. وَيَوْمِرْ يَعْقُوب لِأَخَاهُ لِقْتُ أَبَنِيمْ وَيِقْرَهُ أَبَنِيمْ وَيَعْصُوا غَال وَيُخِلُوا شَام al-Hagal. And so Yaakov said to his brethren, gather up stones. And so they took stones and they made a gal, which is a heap or a pile, and they ate there upon the heap. وَيِقْرَ لَوْ لَبَان يِغَار شَهَدُوثَ وَيَعْقُوب قَرَى لَوْ Gilad. And so Lavan called it Yigar Shahadutha, which means a heap of witness. And Yaakov called it Galaad. Aid means a witness, and Gal is the heap. So in Hebrew, it's Galaid. In Aramaic, it's Yigar Shahadutha. ويومر لبان حق الحزي عيد بيني وبينك هيوم على خين قرا شيمو Galaid. And so Lavan said, this heap is a witness between me and between you today. And for that reason, he called its name Galaid. وحمتها أشر أمار يتسف أدوناي بيني وبينك كي نستر إيش ميرعيه. And this mitzvah, which is a watchtower, which he said, Yisef Adonai Beini. Yisef means to watch. May Adonai watch between me and between you. If the man is hidden from his brother, is basically what he's saying. Im ta'ane et benothai, wa im tikkah nasim al benothai, ein ish immanu, ur'ay Elohim eid beni ubenecha. If you im ta'ane et benothai, if you afflict my daughters, and if you take other wives instead of my daughters, even though there is no man with us, God will see. God will see to the witness between me and between you, which basically he's saying, even if one man is not with the other man at the time that this happens, then God himself will be the witness between us at that time. ويومر لبان ليعقوب هني هقال هزي وهني همتزبا أشر يريثي بيني وبينك. And so Lavan says to Yaakov, behold this heap and behold the standing stone. Yeah, which I have cast. That's interesting, this word. Yarithni beini uvenecha. That's the first time I actually noticed that. Yomer Lavan liYaakov, hine hagal hazeh v'hine hamitzvah asher yariti beini uvenecha. So Lavan says to Yaakov, behold this heap, and behold this standing stone, which I have cast between me and between you. عيد حقيل حزي وعيدا حمتبع إم أني لو أعبر إليك إت حقيل حزي وإم أتل لو تعبر إلي إت حقيل حزي وإت حمتبع هزوت لرعاه. And he says, this heap shall be a witness, and this pillar shall be a witness that I will not pass over this heap to you, and you shall not pass over this heap and this pillar to me for anything lera, which means for anything for bad. Elohe Abraham Elohe Nahor Yishbatu Benenu Elohe Avihim ويشبع يعقوب ببخاد أبيه يتاك. And he says, the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, he shall judge between us, the God of our of their fathers. And so Yaakov swore to him, or Yaakov swore in the name, or bipachad avi, according to the fear of his father Isaac. ويذبح يعقوب ذبح بحار ويكرك لأخاه ليأكل لحم ويأكل اللحم ويلين بحار. And so Yaakov sacrificed in the mountain, and he called to his brethren, or he called his brethren to eat food, and they ate food, and they stayed the night at the mountain. ويشكن لبان ببوخر وينخشيخ לבניו ולבנותיו ויברך אתהן וישב לבן למקומו. And so Laban woke up in the morning, or he got up in the morning, he kissed his sons and his daughters, and he blessed them, and then Laban left, and he returned to his place. ويعقوب הלך לדרכו ויפגעו בו מלאכי אלוהים. And so Yaakov went on his journey, and angels of God met him. ויאמר יעקב כאשר רעם מחנה אלוהים זה ויקרא שם המקום ההוא Mahanaim. And so Yaakov said, as he saw them, the camp of God. This is the camp of God. And so he called the name of that place Mahanaim, which means the two camps. And that is the end of the parasha. Wow, check that out. The next parasha for next Shabbat is Vayishlach Yaakov. That's going to be a good one. So, any questions?
I have, dear Hacham, one last question.
Yeah.
It is, does this parasha talk about the fear of his father Isaac or the reverence of his father?
Pachad is fear.
Fear.
Yeah, it's fear.
Because I have a German translation, and there it is described as reverence.
Yeah. I think reverence is also fear.
Okay.
The Pachad and Norah, or Yare, which is to fear, those are often used interchangeably in the Tanakh. And so it means fear. I think Pachad is actually a stronger fear, almost like a terror. So I appreciate everyone joining us today and watching. I appreciate the questions, and I apologize if I was a little bit distracted today. I have people writing me, calling me. Got a cat that meows without ending. It drives me nuts sometimes, but he's okay. So it's been now 3 hours. And
Non-stop.
So if there's,
Non-stop 3 hours. Maybe the next time we could have a small break.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I have to go.
Okay.
As much as I would love to stay here all night, I could do this all night. But it's rare that we actually get to finish the parasha. Normally, when Melech is here, we really go back and forth, and he has different things, different opinions and views that he brings, and it's pretty good because we can really bring out lots of things. But I really appreciate everyone joining, and I hope to see you all here again next Shabbat, and during the week, as you're reading through the parasha for next Shabbat. If you have any questions, feel free to write me. I think everyone's got my WhatsApp. But anyway, so if if there's no more questions, and I would like to say Shabbat Shalom to everyone who's still in Shabbat, and Shavua Tov to everyone who is now like me at the first day of the week.
Thank you very much, Hakham.
You are very welcome. Okay, so I'm going to end the broadcast then. So hopefully we'll see you all here next Shabbat. So Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.